So, for most of you, it probably doesn't even seem like something else has happened, but in the meantime, I have saved part 1 and thought about how I could continue in part 2 in terms of explaining to you some of the anatomical choices and how they translate into the low-res geometry. So let's start off again by just having a wireframe shade mode turn on and examine the mess. Well, it certainly doesn't look like a Homo sapiens sapiens. Or does it? Oh, well, at least not entirely. But it is a good start, because what we've got is a lot of geometry. In fact, how much geometry do we have? In fact, I haven't even checked that. Let's have a look. 476 polygons. That is quite heavy. Usually that would be by far, that would be more than I usually have for, whenever I proceed with displacement and such. So, I'm just looking at some of these areas and making them a bit prettier already. A bit more, well, dare I say, natural. And just opening up some of that stuff to have a nicer look at it. And this entire area here doesn't look very nice. It's very underdeveloped, and there are not many polygons in the first place. At least they're not there in a way that I like it. So I extend the exact part that I don't like and do something very strange. I collapse the polygons and merge them again. And I know we've done that quite a bit, but I've done it here just to basically start from scratch with the way they are, they were, with the topography, with the flow of the edges. And I think that helped quite a bit. If I were to just having spinned quads, it probably would have taken a lot longer. But now I'm going to spin quads. And oh my goodness, look at all the polygons we've actually gotten rid of. And the shape is almost, you could say almost nicer than before. Not as defined, but far more under our control. So let's look at it a little bit from a distance and use our point statistics to get rid of all of the, see, by now redundant points. They are connected to no polygons, so we can get rid of them. Alright, so let's look at the smooth shade again and see what happened. And that's okay. I'd say before we bounce into the forehead area, let's give this guy some ears. Just gonna select 2 polygons. We're gonna make ears out of 2 polygons. There we go, because that's plenty. It's gonna become more anyway. So I'm looking at the side view right now, and sometimes, if you see my mouse pointer down here, if I see a kink like that in a strange area, I don't know, it's just like, it just bothers me. So I switch back to point mode temporarily, just to have nothing selected, and to retain my former polygon selection. Switch to point mode, use drag points, and just clean up a little bit here. I like doing that right away. It's really a good idea. While you edit, doesn't matter. So let's switch back to to polygon selection. Our polygons are still selected. Very nice trait. And well, let's just extend them and stretch them into a better origin for our ears from the side view, and from the front view I do the same. I make it flat, a bit like that. And from the top view, I think it's okay. I'm just looking at what it looks like, but I could rotate it a little bit if I wanted to. Yeah. Well, we've got, I think, a decent origin for her here. I make it a bit wider, a bit larger. So, well, I think that's fine. And, yeah, kind of outline what this might be like. And extend it again, stretch it a bit smaller. And what we're going to do now is we're going to select the rim of our ear. It's basically going to be what is the visible ear. And we're just going to extend this entire thingy. like so. Rotate it outwards like that. You can see how it already kind of starts looking like an ear, quite obviously. Zoom into it, a little bit back out, and then make it transition a bit more nice out of the head, whereby we go more into that a little bit later. Just at first I just prepare that rough outline to be somewhat, decent. Nothing too special. Okie dokie. And now let's go into the inside of the ear. And I'd say let's extend that too, stretch it a bit smaller, and stretch it inside of the head like that, bring it back into the head. And then I'm going to pick the polygons on the inside of the rim. I think that would be fine. Just already do a bit of shaping here, like so. In fact, I'm going to move this. I'm going to make the inner rim already a little bit tighter, because you'll see what happens after I do another extend. There we go. And use stretch, grab it in the center and make it larger actually. So that way we get a little bit of the, the bowl of the ear. I should probably grab a book, an anatomy book, and learn all of the proper anatomical, definitions to get the lingo more straight. But the thing is, I guess most of you don't know the Latin names of all of those things. A lot of you probably do, but I don't want to think about that yet. Or right now. I'm too ashamed as it is. So, and well, let's see, we've got basically that definition underneath the rim already. So there's somewhat of a definition. So now we take the largest inner curl of the ear, and what we do is we just pull out these points as opposed to just creating new geometry. Now we see if we can change the connection of it. Oh, let me switch back to wireframe shade so you can see a bit better. And see, let's look at this for a second. And looks much like, oopsie, this is not very nice. Hold on, this is not very nice. Let's simplify the geometry for a second, because we can make it complicated very quickly again. There we go. Oh, let's do it like this. Yeah, it's fine. And let's see if we can curl. First of all, let's curl the outside of the rim a bit to the inside. Let's see. Yes. So, I grab these polygons over here. Oddly enough, because I want to get a distinct piece of flesh, basically, connecting the larger rim of the ear with, the front part of the ear. And to do that, I extend those 3 polygons in that case, stretch them a bit smaller, use my perspective here, stretch underneath it, stretch it a bit smaller like that. See, and I kind of know what's happening here now. I use drag points. And let's zoom into it all the way right now for a second. There we go. And let's see what kind of cleanup stuff we can do right away, because it looks really messy down here. Let's do some spin quads and clean up a little bit, merge, and let's move this up. And I don't like this star very much. It's not very pretty. Now we have to see what would be the best idea and how to deal with it. Let's come to this in a moment. First, let's clean up this again. Spin quad. This one becomes redundant. And there we go. That should be somewhat decent, or at least a little bit more interesting. Grab these polygons and just curl them down. For a second, I just don't care about the topography for a moment. But I think I should. So Let me spin quads for a moment, because I don't like this construction very much. And also, this stuff here, I think nobody will ever see that. And if there's an area that nobody will ever see, if there's such an area, you kind of want to get, simplify that as much as possible, because it would be a waste to have it. Oopsie, a waste to have it in there. So that's simplified enough. So, not too keen on what's happening over here either, but I'm not too sure what would be the best idea there right now. And especially with the wires only, we can't quite judge it. So let's look at the smooth shape for a second and do some broader shaping there. I mean, it's all a little bit silly because all of that stuff is so easy to handle if you do displacement. With displacement, you really don't have to care about that too much anymore. So, see, I'm spinning stuff around a little bit, and I've just yeah, I think that's nicer. Okay, let's do it like that. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another extend with these. And I'm looking at the top view for a second. And I know, for instance, that somewhere in this area, that would be here, so I can take this and stretch it in top view, for example, if that appears to be more handy. And let's do it. Look, now it becomes much nicer, much nicer. Yeah, some of these things are hard to explain, but you can see as I spin it around, I basically bring that curve around, bring it to curve, the outline of the ear, to curve it to the inside of the ear. Spin quads again, and now I have this area here, which is going to be our way into the inside of the head. Yeah, it can be just a little bit out of the way there. So that way we have probably nice enough of a definition there. There's probably anyway already kind of the definition of that stuff might already be decent enough, to be truly recognizable as an ear. You can go all crazy and even start that little, build that little nipple that we have at the end here. But without using displacement, it's as you can see quite a bit more tedious to build an ear. Do another extend here for more definition. This is all way over the top. But I'm gonna do it just so you've seen it. Sure. So this is like a skin flap, like it's almost like, yeah, it's like not the purposeful part of the design. It's just a side effect of the design of an ear. I mean, in reality, sort of. I mean, it's like how the skin connects. How it's woven. Yeah. Yo, it's somewhat of an ear. There we go. Now we spend a lot of time with it, which is, usually the kind of, it's worthy. The complication of an ear usually should be considered worthy of spending some time with it. And right now it looks very funny, more like monkey ears. Look at the guy in just in a full perspective view. Very strange. It almost looks like... Excellently... It's funny. It looks so pinched. Let us see in Lightwave's perspective amount. Yeah, there we can see it here. Aha! Let's make it a little bit less dramatic in the perspective. So there we go. Now we can stretch this guy a little bit differently there. And let's go back to the ears for a second, because we haven't looked at the back side of the ear. For that I'm just going to make a tiny little bit more room, like so. And then just extend. Stretch it smaller. And it's supposed to be, you know, kind of like around that, because the ear is you know, it's a skin flap. And so we're trying to make this as natural as possible, because nowadays with all the subsurface scattering and such, it will become quite visible whether the ear is modeled nice or not, you know, especially if it's about that piece of skin it represents there. So, yeah, well, yeah, let's say it's okay. Rather deal with it over here. And down here it's still way too thick, so I'm just gonna rotate that in a little bit like that. There we go. Let's look at the geometry all together. Haha! I really don't like those. Those are not pretty. So I'm gonna take these 3 polygons, extend them, collapse them. And there we've got some, oh, ouch, something much nicer in an instant. There, look at that, it's way nicer. Alrighty. Okay, there are a few things I don't think that are necessarily shouldn't. I have that sometimes. Radical change. Large polygon. Spinning the quad on a large polygon can look very dramatic. So, you know, see, some of these things I've just done, and I didn't even think too much about the model. They were almost just like, you know, reflexes, mechanical type of choices, you know. And I see this area here too, which is very bad. That star again screams for attention. You know, there's something supposed to happen. And so now I crawl back forward into the other parts of the face, and just kind of make him a bit more, you know, smoother. And oh, we're not even done with the ear yet. What am I doing? Haha. Just do a few little things. Nothing too dramatic. When and why did I change that? Ah, yeah. There is a reason. Ooh, so much nonsense. Yeah, I'm really used to doing a lot of displacement stuff right now. I mean, it's not common that I, you know, do all this detailed polygon modeling, and neither should you. You should definitely consider doing more displacement stuff. It's a much better choice. Yo, but still we want this to look somewhat nice, so I'm just gonna spend some time with that. And let's give it a little bit of I don't know what on earth do you call this part of the ear? You know, that fun little nipple here. Extend, bring it in like so, and there we've got that. And now we've got 3 polygons here that scream for being collapsed and reconnected. Merged actually, back into quads. There we go, that seems already much more smooth and natural. And let's see if we can actually do something like that over here, because this is really the horror. Extend, collapse. And it looks a little less horrible, but not much less horrible. I think we might have to go ahead and add more to that, but we didn't even pay too much attention to the forehead at this point. So if we do that, we might extend some stuff over here, which might solve what we've got over here. So sometimes, you know, don't waste too much time if you see that there's something more dramatic happening elsewhere, or that something more dramatic has to happen elsewhere. Because everything you do anywhere ripples down the chain, so to say. It ripples down into the rest of the head. So let's look at the placement of the ears. They're very, 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 very low. So let's go back into our quad view, and I outline the ears like so. I'm just gonna fine-tune the selection a little bit, and then let's move it into place. Rotate it a bit maybe. And we want the, the part where the ear starts on top, we want that to line up somewhat with the angle of the eye. I think that seems more natural to me. I'm not sure about the size of those ears yet either, or how far they stand up. It kind of feels a little high up, doesn't it? A bit further back, maybe. Somehow it doesn't strike me as perfect, but whatever. This is aesthetical choices. At least you know how to move those ears, and whether you want them higher up or lower or further back, this will be all up to you. Again, this is much less about anatomy than it is about modeling. But again, I have a hard time to hold back. I have to make these stupid, silly little changes. They're very important to me. Alright. If something, I've rotated around so much that there could be some pinching that might not be pretty. So I'm looking at the geometry again. And I say, it's actually kind of okay. It's not so bad. It's not so bad. No, it's fine. Okie dokie. Let's have a look at the forehead then. Forehead. Oh, we spent quite some time on the ears, I guess. Yeah. It was worth it. I think. To me. Alright. The forehead. Let's do it in 2 steps. Let's take the, the temple area a little bit up there. Extend that. Stretch it smaller. Go to a decent angle. Stretch it a little bit more into shape again. And what we are developing right now is a little bit more definition into that area. So, and then we're going to get some more geometry for whatever is right above the bridge of the nose. Extend it. I go into the front view right now because I can see that much easier over here. At that point where I'm just worrying about topography, I look at this and I look back in the perspective view and I see I can make these changes, and I have to examine that for a second to make good judgment about what it is that we want here. Could be kind of interesting. I mean, it seems a little dangerous to me, but in terms of topography, and also when we animate it, when you do animation, areas like that can be very sensitive to deformation. Let's see what would be the best idea. Well, ultimately, especially in animation, it would be much nicer, especially for these areas, to have some way in which we can preserve the skull underneath that area, so that it really seems like only the skin moves over top. But that's an entirely different tutorial. Alright, so let's go to the sides and change a little bit the topography again. Let's make it all a bit nicer. And at some point here, we need to keep one of those stars, and we have to decide for which one it is that we want to keep. And there's something very bulgy on top of the head. So see, I made this change, just these very few polygons in the top there, and it truly does ripple down the chain. It does ripple down the rest of the geometry. And it might even require us to add more polygons elsewhere. It might. Trying to evade that right now for a moment. And again, we want to watch out that the transition of high density areas to low density areas is rather smooth. It's always a good idea. Let's look at the smooth shade for a moment. Oh my god, what do we have here? Frankenstein! Alright. Let's get a bit more definition by moving those points a bit closer together. Not that it makes it any less Frankensteinish, but it will help. So yeah, I'm making these adjustments. It's very difficult to really explain. It's like almost aesthetical choices, you know. But the gist of it is, the closer these points are together, you know, the closer polygons are together, the sharper an edge would become. You know, if I would take, for instance, that outline, let's just turn on the flat polygons, and I would make these, you know, would bring these polygons very close together like that. Let me show that to you for a second. I look at the frontal view right now to make sure, you know, that they are really close together. Can be irritating. Alright, so like so, you will see that there's almost like a distinct edge here. You see how much sharper that edge became there? Yeah, there you can see. Absolutely great. So this is one of those things you kind of want to watch out for, or be aware of. I mean, you could use edge weighting for things like that, you know, if you specifically want things like that to happen. But we're not going to do that now. So on this area now shows also some trouble that I was rather neglecting before. And let's see how we can solve that. Like that's the entire, you know, all of this entire area we haven't really paid too much attention to, not too much. So let's see. I do like what's happening underneath the eye here. That's pretty nice. So in other words, we would want to rather change something above here. So let's see, let's be a bit, sometimes you want to be a bit bolder, you know, if you kind of can see that just spinning quads won't do too much to the area. Whereby this is not that bad, but boring. You just grab the polygons that trouble you, and just extend, collapse them, and then do changes like that with that method. That is really, you know, sometimes it's very, the stuff that happens is just right. It's one of the magics of this entire modeling style, you know. It's like, if you stick to these moves, the geometry and the method behind it is going to work with you. Yeah, it's one of those interesting things about it. I used to be extraordinarily fascinated by that. And by now I'm very used to it. I actually make use of it. But it took a long time. I mean, and sometimes, even now, I'm sometimes absolutely fascinated by how much it does all by itself. So this kink here really troubles me tremendously. So to get rid of this kink, I'm going to do something very strange. I'm going to take the 3 polygons up here, because I know I can sort of reconnect it, but not right now. It's not very pretty. So I'm just going to take these 3 polygons, extend them, make them a bit smaller, just the usual move. Go to the side view to see that I keep somewhat of the curvature. The more geometry I have there, the more definition will show to it. So you will see, you know, a much more stronger edge. And that's another thing to keep in mind again. Same thing as we showed you down here. So I've created this new, you know, extension, and now I'm going to reconnect it and see if we can heal some of the not so pretty things that are happening there. Let's move this a bit back, a bit forward. This is very, I mean, this gets a lot of definition now. I'm absolutely not used to that anymore. Long live displacement. Okie dokie. What does this look like? Strange. Alright, let's grab this area and just drag points a little bit. I said a little bit, a whole lot. But, you know, a lot of times it's just these very tiny, tiny changes that you do in the pursuit of, you know, the kind of shapes you're looking for. And we can see that there's some kind of strange, fine fold. Alright. It looks a little bit like a marine with his haircut. I'm not sure about you, but I don't want that. Nothing against Marines, no, no, no. But I don't want this to end up being a propaganda tutorial. Times like this. Anyway. Here, it does sure look sort of marine-ish, well, maybe. Just because he's so very aerodynamic right now. Alright, well, let's look at him like this and see what happens. So the eyes are really terrifying. I mean, the more interesting the rest becomes, the more you see, you know, when little things are funky. Well, but again, I mean, there's almost questionable whether this should be part of a tutorial. I mean, the repairs certainly, yeah, but you know, when it comes to aesthetics and this is a different type of tutorial. I mean, right now this is really all about showing to you the technique. And like for instance, you could consider it a part of a technique for sure if it's about creating little skin folds. Like right now, this is a very round, you know, very, very primitive shape. I mean, if you look at the eye. But what we would want for an eyelid, for instance, is we would want the eyelid to fold over and under at some places, for example. And like right here, we don't have a lot of geometry. Let's look at the wireframe shade. So it's going to be a little bit more tricky to do that. So one way of just, you know, saying, well, adding more geometry is just pick a segment of it, make a bit more room and there, and then just extend it, stretch it smaller. I picked more of the inside because, you know, it's just for safety. And let's clean it up a little bit, you know, just so we can see it better. Let's reconnect. And grab that polygon, stretch. Just so we have it all a bit more clean. And sometimes, you know, when things get confusing, all you need to do to make it entirely confusing is switch the subpatches back off, but it actually shows you much nicer, you know, what the geometry actually looks like. So, okie dokie. Yeah, look at it from different angles here, just to kind of make the whole geometry a bit more neat, a bit cleaner. And it's almost clean up now. As you can see, it comes together. And it might want to have a little bit of an arc in there. And let's switch the NURBS back on, the subpatches back on. Meta NURBS, if any, but yeah, I know it's not, don't worry, I know it's not NURBS, no. And I know you don't call it Meta NURBS anymore. Real shame, I like the name. Whoa, yeah, so, looks like we almost have what we want, which is kind of funny, because it happened a little bit earlier than I anticipated here. But we can only start judging that once we look at the smooth shade. And yeah, you know, it folds a little bit over. It's kind of interesting to start. Alright. There's a funky kink in here, and you can kind of imagine what it might be because of the density of polygons. There's a lot more density on the outside than here on the inside. And that's why it's getting automatically some more definition on the outside then, which can make it appear like it's a bit kinked. But then it should look more interesting. Really huge, those eyes. Really huge. So let's do the good old extend selection thingy. And just let's make them a little bit smaller like that. Bring it a bit closer together. Okay. And it looks like the eyes are a little bit far inside of the head here, I think. Not sure. Maybe it's just because of how I look. But I have troubles with eyes that are so far inset. Oopsie. Haha. Okie dokie. So... well, there's one other way to make sure that the eyes are a little bit more natural. And that way is to actually place an eyeball inside and see what happens. And that's what I always do. Absolutely always. Unless I forget doing it. And then I have to do it later. And no. So, and it's a good idea to actually take care of that even when you do a model as low as just for displacement, because yeah, it's I mean, most tools for displacement don't make it exactly easy to place eyeballs or other objects, you know, into your geometry. So you might want to do that in advance, and also to make really nice and round shapes. See, sometimes I just bounce around. I look at my geometry like that, and then I just make some quick, you know, judgments, and then just do little tweaks. Do that quite often. Yeah, for instance, here also the ear lobe is a little bit strange. I'm just going to tuck this a bit back in. I'm going to grab this area, and relax it a bit more again. There we go. It looks a bit strange down here. Usually the definition of the jaw is not necessarily directly underneath the ear, but instead it's a little bit lower over here. You could see a bit more how it gets defined. Also, you must imagine that there's, in the animation, bone that's supposed to move underneath the skin. So the skin over here, for instance, is supposed to almost stay in place, while that definition of the jaw should move underneath, you know. Like when the mouth would be open, you know, you would have the jawbone rather be defined down here, you know. Just as an example, so, you know, the more you add definition in that area, the more funny it's going to look in animation. Alright. Eyeballs, yeah, we wanted to place some eyeballs. I mean, we could, if we wanted to. I don't have a lot of definition in the mouth area either. We didn't pay too much attention to that yet. Or maybe you have and I didn't. It'd be horrible. So I spin some quads over here. Get that area a bit nicer. Just curl that a little bit back up. Oh, this is very little defined. Oh, what am I doing to you? Yeah. But see, sometimes you get definition only by just tweaking the geometry already. That's already enough. Well, the thing here is, again, what troubles me is, again, for displacement, this would be already far beyond perfect. I mean, it would be just right. But, oh, what happened here? For shame. I guess there are some points crossing over, and I didn't see that. So let's look at, see, you can see it right here in the frontal view. Ta-da! In Lightwave, if these points cross over, and probably in any application, the symmetry acts up a little bit funny. And so right now, see, the symmetry is perfectly fine again. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Yeah. So, what's nice like this or like that? It's kind of funny over here, but yeah. Ah, it's fine. Let's leave it like that. And let's leave at least a little bit of something for when we take all of this into displacement, because in the following tutorials we're going to start covering displacement. So this is just tutorial number 1, the low-res geometry modeling, or the secrets behind organic modeling. I think I might call it that. Yes. Somewhere, I wonder where, I've heard that if you put the name secrets into something like that, it sounds more appealing. And since for years people were asking me about my secrets, and I for years keep telling them It's not secrets. Because I never hesitate to explain what I'm doing. I think by now I just accept it. Okay, it's secrets. And here you go. Have them all. All my secrets. Depending on how well I have explained it now, they might still be secrets. Never mind. So, this is what we're having so far. I still haven't made those eyeballs. Let me make those eyeballs real quick. Ta 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 ta. Eyeballs. Let's make a ball. And bring it into place. It's somewhat of a right size. I think that size is somewhat okay. I believe at least. Let's place them real quick. Let him look a little bit down there. Sure. As you can see, it just totally intersects like crazy. So by picking that eyeball as a background layer, let me mirror that to the other side real quick here. So picking that as a background layer, we can see where the parameter, how large the eyeball is. I mean, I don't have to explain to you what you already see in yourself, and so now I'm going into the side view and move it forward a little bit, into the front view and move it out a little bit. And beautiful flap we've just essentially lost, so let's get it back. And there you go, that should be that. See what all of this did to the surrounding geometry. Move out a little bit. That really does not look very pretty. So let's get the fold above the eyelid back. Let's fold the eyelid underneath again. There. What does this look like? Strange, and even more like me again. Narv. Alright. Let's pick that. Stretch it a bit. Sometimes I just don't model wildly just by judging the shape and by being too troubled about the geometry itself. Yeah, never be afraid. That's the other thing. Just never be afraid. Always be aware, but never be afraid. Sure. It still has something of Frankenstein, and whatever made me not so pretty. Though. It reminds me to somebody. I can't quite name it. This reminds me to a bad CG model. Damn it. Alright. Okie dokie. Well, that would be pretty much it for right now. And you see the overall, the level of densities between the polygons. It's not too sudden, the transitions. They are all very smooth. And that is good. That is what we want. Well, I hope that taught you a little bit already. Maybe even more, I hope so. I'm not sure, but I will not stop. It will continue very soon. And I can't leave this geometry like that. I just can't. This is just horrible. Let me do this real quick. Because this is just, I can't even look at it. It hurts. Oh, I think this is nicer, isn't it? I think it's nicer. I think it's a little bit better. It could be a lot better, but it doesn't matter. So, the wonders of extend, of stretch, of spin quads, and of drag points. And move and rotate and, all the other things. But it's not too many. So you've seen it. I haven't used a lot of features, and you really don't. And you get to something really decent even while you're explaining it. Or trying to, in my case. Alright. Let that be the conclusion of it. Ta-da! Yeah, just for a little bit of fun. So, these highlights, I mean, if you were looking at a shape like that, it's very interesting to look at the highlights because they are super revealing. You know, they really show your curvature quite well. It's very good for judgment. It's pretty nice to do that. But enough of it. Well, I might actually record another outro just so you see my face one more time. Or should I? I don't know. I shouldn't distract you from your studies now. And don't forget it's scrub-ucation, so you can scrub back and forth all the time and see if there were some specific moves that you're interested in. And if you want to actually remodel exactly that head, I don't know, you want to? Well, it might be very interesting, of course, but more than anything, maybe I make an outro. You know what? I'm gonna make an outro. All right, here comes the outro. So this is what I look like after about 2.5 hours of monologuing. I'm not sure if you've noticed that, but in fact, not once have I saved. And that's one of those things that happens if you model like that. The speed of the modeling and the kind of control you have over it sort of makes it feel like it's there's no reason to to be afraid that you could lose something. But trust me, don't try this at home. Save more often than just save. I mean, especially what I do usually is when the geometry has reached a certain point and I start to do with the tiny tweaks, then of course I save like crazy. Even it's the beauty of incremental saving. And the other thing that's actually fun about it is then to go back into revision. Well, that if you watch earlier revisions, you see truly dramatic differences. Sometimes you wonder what made you believe that it was okay at that earlier point in time. Well, it is still a very coarse model, but again, we're going to take that into displacement in, I guess, even in the very next big session. And but for now, it gave you at least a very a very complete idea of how I do all that modeling, because nothing of that changes. This is how I model, and you saw all the all the little moves, and there are actually not many either. But it's important to understand where you use them, and it's important to keep an eye on your geometry, on your topography, and especially when it's an organic model like that, you kind of want to make it homogeneous, smooth. You don't want to have too sudden transitions that could for once reveal the technical nature of it, and on the other hand also break the kind of natural flow that especially things like skinned creatures have. Skin basically grows over bone, and it does make things smoother. Shapes are smooth, unless there was some kind of really hideous war injury or other trouble. I don't want to be too insensitive there, but normally it should be rather smooth, and your topography should reflect that. What else? Well, I really hope you enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed making it. It's really fun, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to make a lot more, and hopefully I also get to cover animation, because it's one of those other things where I'd love to at least give you what I've learned in all these years. And well, I hope to see you soon then. Goodbye. Oh, by the way, it's let me see what time it is. It's 4 a.m. So I'd say good morning.